All right, welcome in. Who's Got Next? Michigan Football Recruiting Podcast, brought to you by Maize Blue Review. I apologize to those watching us live for being so late. Very chaotic morning. My son got sick today at school during his last day of school and had to go home and was super pissed because they were having a party and last days are fun. So it's been a rough morning. I apologize for being late, but joining me as always, Recruiting Insider for Maize Blue Review, Mr. Aidan Sen. How are you doing, sir?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Feeling good.
What time
The
is it for you
weekend.
now? Like 12:30 in the morning?
12:25. It's all good.
Yeah.
We're chilling.
Yeah, you're a young buck. You can stay up late. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into it. Obviously, tail end of last weekend, official visitors. So some little notes coming out here and there. And then obviously have some lack of returns as well as some weekend official visitors. So just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in the end, they only ended up hosting 6 or 7 official visitors. So Devon Benjamin, Zion Robinson, Damari Simeon, Brady Marchese, Jack Stanner. So Christian Ward didn't end up making it in for the visit. I don't think that one's getting rescheduled. Jordan Deck did reschedule for the 13th, so not this weekend, but the one after. So I think Michigan's well positioned there. That wasn't anything particularly worrying in terms of him rescheduling that visit, but that'll be all good. So yeah, there was kind of a lack of returns from this weekend. Again, which wasn't great. Also, I forgot to reference Shardarius Toodle, but which wasn't great. So I think Toodle in particular, I think Michigan had a lot of smoke for coming out of the spring, a lot of momentum there. But I don't think that this last weekend was particularly like tide changing, I guess maybe. I don't think it really moved the needle for him. So I think he'll likely be headed to the SEC, whether that's to Georgia or Auburn, who he's currently committed to. In terms of SEC commits, though, I think Michigan did make a good impact for Brady Marchese. I think that he had a lot of fun. I think I spoke to his coach at Cartersville, Quinton Kent, who said that Brady really enjoyed the visit, and Ron Bellamy has made him a really high priority target on the trail recently. And I think that relationship's building really strong. But obviously, it's early stages in terms of that recruitment. So I don't think we'll be. Yeah, I think even if he doesn't flip right now, I wouldn't be too concerned. As a Michigan fan, I think there's still a long way to go on that one, and he's still making visits. And I think he'll be back. He told me that his coach told me that he'll likely be returning for a game later on in the season. But speaking of wide receivers, of all the official visitors this weekend, I'd say that Zion Robinson was the one the staff did the best with.
Which, if you're going to make a
Uh,
move with anybody,
mm,
I hope it's Zion Robinson coming out of that group,
yeah,
right? So
for sure. Yeah, I think he was the second highest rated recruit. Yeah, third highest behind Benjamin and Toodle. But he's an impressive player. He's an impressive specimen. He's 6'4", I think. Let me check that. Yeah, 6'4", 180.
yeah.
Ranked 120th in the nation, 18th among wide receivers. Projected as starting level wide receiver from day one. I think he likes some finesse, I guess, with his route tree and with his route running. But yeah, I think he was really positive about the visit. I think Michigan probably comes out of that visit as a leader.
Mm.
I think he's got an OV to Stanford this weekend, then TCU on June 12th, and Miami on June 14th. So academics is a priority for him. So he discussed that with me. That's reflected through his Stanford OV,
100%.
which I think is good for Michigan. I guess I think that leaves as they're well positioned in that sense. In terms of competition, I think Baylor at one point was considered quite considerable competition for Michigan, but I think TCU is probably the one to watch on
Mm.
June 12th, as I said. So if he comes out of that uncommitted to TCU, and then heads into his July official visit, his July commitment announcement, which he's currently scheduled to do, I think I back Michigan probably to secure that commitment.
And Michigan's made no secret of the fact that they're going after bigger wide receivers. We saw that in the last recruiting class. We saw that with, the addition of Donovan McCulley and some other conversations they had in the transfer portal. It's clear they want more size on the outside, but the wide receiver board's starting to come together a little bit. So, you talked about Brady, we talked about Zion. There's a couple other big pieces there. Where does Michigan stand right now with maybe their top 4 guys or so as far as priority targets? And how many do you think Michigan takes in this class as well, potentially?
So we've got Jalen Powell committed. Obviously, he's probably the smallest one they've recruited. I mean, Brady, the Georgia commit, is only 6 foot, but Jalen Powell is around similar to that size. He's more of a slot guy, I guess. But in terms of those,
He's a demon,
the
though,
wide
man. The kid is
yeah,
so
he's
good.
nice.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you
for
you
sure.
still there's still spots on the roster for guys like that. Don't get me wrong; they're
Oh
not going
yeah,
to play
yeah,
6'5"
yeah,
at every spot, right? And
yeah, exactly.
he seems crazy underrated to me. I'll be interested to see
Oh
what
yeah,
happens
for
with his
sure.
senior year, but
Yeah, yeah, that's part of what you're talking about, right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. His film was great, and I think he's working with the Lions training staff this off season. His mom was telling me about that, so
that's awesome.
yeah, I think he's gonna
Oh,
blow up in it.
shout out Mama Pyle, by the way. She's as good as it gets, man. She's
Oh
awesome.
yeah, she's so nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of the wide receiver board, so the other names to look at to keep an eye on probably are Travis Johnson, Kenyon Alston, and then Robinson and Marchese. I think that's the kind of the top 4 where it's looking like at the moment. They should do a couple of other offers. I think Jabari Brady was one of them.
Mhm.
Uh, he's another 2026 name, but there hasn't been much momentum there despite the offer. But Kenyon Alston, I think Michigan is really high on his leaderboard. He's not currently living in the state of Michigan, but he's a Michigan native, so he grew up there. And he's really high on the staff. He visited in the spring, in March, I think, and had visited multiple times in 2024 and 2023. But I think he's really high on the staff, and I think an OV will get scheduled there. Whether or not that be midweek or on June 20th or June 13th, I think he's undecided. He hasn't informed me about that yet, but I think that's one that Michigan could definitely land if they push. So that's more of a wait and see maybe. But Travis Johnson is the other one. I think he's one that probably most Michigan fans to be aware of. He's
Sure.
high on the stuff. Yeah, he's high on the stuff. Michigan's high on him, but that one's hard to read. I think I've had trouble putting together. Um, I mean, I've gathered a lot of intel from different sources, but I've had trouble putting together exactly what he's thinking. I think it's a fluid recruitment. This weekend is big for him, I'd say. He's at Penn State, I think, currently, and will be there for the weekend. And I think that that would be Michigan's primary competition in this recruitment. I think I don't currently have it with me, but he's got some other finalists, some other people that are out there recruiting him hard. But I think Michigan is he's probably the highest priority name for Michigan and Ron Bellamy, and I think he has been for some time.
And I apologize. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I'm like getting information as we go here. For visitors that are supposed to be here this weekend, one of them includes running back Amari Latimer, who
Mm.
obviously is coming off of a great visit at Wisconsin, which there's not often bad visits. We always talk about that when everybody's like, oh, he had a good visit. Well, they usually are great visits, right?
Mm.
But we know the connection there with his brother transferring there as well. It looks like he's currently on Wisconsin's campus again today. Now, as of
Yeah,
yesterday, I heard he was still taking his official visit to Michigan this weekend.
yeah,
We had kind of been saying, look, if he gets out of that Wisconsin visit without committing, I'm not shocked. We've seen predictions roll in on some other sites and people have Wisconsin in the driver's seat. I'm not shocked by that. But as long as the recruitment continued, I liked Michigan at least having another shot if he came back on campus. But it's interesting. I don't know if Wisconsin's again trying to prevent him from coming to Michigan because I'm sure they're thinking the same thing. Like we can't have him go to Ann Arbor, but
mm.
so
Yeah.
this
That
could
one's
be
interesting.
outdated by the time most people listen back. But anyway, that's kind of where things sit right
Yeah.
now at
I mean,
10:30.
I think we discussed it last week a little bit about the recruiting board, but there really for the running backs, so there really isn't that many names on there really at the moment. I
Yeah,
think they sheeted a couple of offers last week. I think Carson Baker was one, but I saw predictions that he was going to Florida. and he hasn't scheduled a visit or anything. And Ryan Estrada was another one, but he hasn't scheduled any visits or anything. So yeah.
I don't think we've changed there. I think Hiter is obviously still target number one. He's the
Oh
main
yeah,
guy they
exactly.
want. I just dreamed of a Hiter Latimer class. I thought that would be
Oh yeah, for sure.
home run for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Like I said, if you're listening to this on Saturday, who knows? This could be outdated, but I'm trying to get information as we go. So anyway, let's talk about some other official visitors that are coming this weekend. Big name, probably Felix Ojo, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that one's fluid. I mean, I've had a long-standing relationship with him for quite some time, and he's always been open with it, and open with his thoughts on everything. I think Texas is a leader for him. I think the in-state school for him, they've recruited him hard for some time. I think he's high on Steve Sarkisian, but I think Michigan can make a move. He told me that Bryce Underwood was a big factor for him. So when he committed, when not when he committed, when Bryce Underwood got to Michigan, I know that that improved Michigan's stock in his recruitment.
Sure.
I think as you expect with any recruit really,
Feels that
seeing
way
a
now.
guy,
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, I haven't heard that much out of official visits about Bryce. I mean, I haven't really heard about him from recruits in a while, but that's besides the point. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that Michigan has an opportunity this weekend to make a move there. If they discuss NIL, I think that'll be an important factor. I didn't hear too much about that coming out of last weekend. I think there were discussions, but they weren't maybe that in depth, I think, which might not be pleasing for some Michigan fans, but I don't think it's too much of a worry. I think when it comes down to it, they'll pull it out for the priority names, but that's besides the point. I think that
Yeah.
Ojo is definitely one to watch out for. He's what I think I'd say, in my opinion, he's probably the highest upside 2026 prospects. Think about Andrew Babalola last cycle. That's Ojo this cycle, in my opinion.
Hmm.
And then if you look at the other names on campus, I think it's a big weekend for the defensive side of the ball. And a lot of recruits, so I think that Michigan's well positioned to land, really. I think Mikhail Blade recently announced the top two with John Garcia, I think. He announced it yesterday of Alabama and Michigan. And I think Michigan's well positioned there. He's high on the staff. The staff have been high on him for some time. And I think realistically, there's a chance he comes out of this weekend with a commitment. We'll see if he takes his visit to Alabama. I think that's next weekend, maybe. But he's scheduled to announce his commitment on the 4th of July. But that would be one name to have your eye on for a commitment watch this weekend. The other one is Nick Abrams.
Yes.
He's high in Michigan. He's got a top four. I think of Georgia. I forget the other ones. Georgia, Alabama, and Oregon. He's scheduled to commit on the 16th of July. But he's been high in Michigan as well for some time. And I think Brian John Marie did a really good job with him during like that week at the end of May when they got around. I think that he was really high on them.
Sorry. I was
And
smiling. You did good on his name there. You do great with names compared to me by a mile. But I know Jean Marie. You got it though, buddy.
was that right?
Yeah, you got it. Brian Jean Marie. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's on campus this weekend. I think that one I wouldn't say that one's on commit watch. I think that he will take it out to his. I mean, did just say commit watch, but I think in terms of recruits that Michigan is high on the board of, I think that that's certainly one to watch out for. And then the other names are Trenton Henderson's coming in. He's looking like an LSU lane at this stage, but or Auburn, I think. So he's high on those two programs. But I think Michigan is confident there that they can make a move this weekend, based on just a couple of sources and from what I've heard from him. And I think Braden Rouse is another one. He's looking like a Tennessee lean, pretty
Mhm.
confidently. I know Texas is making a late move there. I think he was in Texas last weekend. I could be wrong. Or next weekend. But I know that they're making a strong move there. And then the other ones are Kari Adams. I think Michigan's well positioned for him. That one's looking like classic Penn State Michigan battle. I think Texas A&M might be trying to make a move there, but I think that'll come down to Michigan and Penn State. I saw predictions for him to land with the Nittany Lions coming off his official visit last weekend, but nothing eventuated there. So we'll see how that goes. But I think Michigan is well positioned there. And then Donovan Webb is the final one.
Yeah.
That one started heating up recently. I think I had an article up about him last weekend, I think. But I think that one's a bit of an underrated one because I think Chase Calicut is leaning to Texas, I think. Because he rescheduled his Michigan official visit for June 13th and put Texas as that last official visit,
Mm.
which has been known as an advantage, I guess, on the trail. And I think that that one always sort of felt like a Texas lean, even though he said that Michigan was his leader. It always just with Texas and an in-state school, you can't really ever rule them out of a recruitment, I don't think. So I think that's why Michigan has started pursuing Webb a little bit harder. And then Andre Clark is another one. He'll be in next weekend, and Celeste Moore are a couple other names to look at that safety position. But they've made Donovan Webb a really big priority on the trail. But yeah.
When you might not know the answer to this, so I apologize asking, but with the calendar changing, when is the next either quiet or dead period now?
After June 20th, so I think June 22nd, I think it is.
Okay,
So
because I
that's
knew
last.
it messed with the barbecue schedule from previous years.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I just
yeah. So
okay,
the Victor's weekend is a big one.
yeah,
It's the Michigan official visits. I think I'll check, but I think they've got 15 uh 4-star plus guys currently scheduled
sure,
for Victor's weekend. So I think last weekend was the smallest group, and probably the group that they had the. I think that was a long shot weekend. I think I'll be calling it. I
yeah,
think they got a lot of guys in there that were sort of leaning elsewhere to I think to fill them out a little bit early in the official visit period and see if they could get them back on campus maybe for Victor's weekend, as we talked about. I will see if anything comes out of that. But I think progressively as we get along the weekends, it's more and more names that are likely to commit to Michigan, I
sure.
guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and not to be that guy, but I've seen some panic already amongst
Mm.
Michigan fans as far as this recruiting class goes. So just a quick fun exercise. It is June 6th. Michigan's 2025 class on June 6th was Bobby Kenka, Eli Owens, and Avery Gatch. That's it. That's the list.
That's significantly worse than what they've got now.
So February 5th, Ty Haywood, flip. Awusa Boateng, December 4, win over Notre Dame. Travis Moten, December 4. Nathaniel Marshall, flip from Auburn. Jordan Young, flip. Bryce Underwood, flip. Dotson, Ad, Browder, Benny Patterson, Shamari Earls, flip. Babalola, Andrew Marsh, win over Washington, some other schools. Jane Sanders, kid out of Texas. I mean, I can go on. You guys get the point. So I'm just not worried about where Michigan is in terms of recruiting. They've always been a team that finishes strong, right? And as far as the numbers conversation, again, I've talked about that with NIL too. How I think teams that are offering exact dollar amounts don't know that they have that money. And it's even more complicated with this house settlement case that continues to linger for some reason. The judge still hasn't made action on that. Right. So I think once there is a little bit, it's not that they're not saying anything at all. They're giving them, these estimates, but I think you're going to see a lot of kids when it comes closer to commitment, like
Yeah.
actual commitment time where, hey, we told you this much, it's actually this much. Or, hey, I know we told you a spot, we don't really have a spot. I think Michigan's going to be in position to make a nice push at the end. And then obviously the big thing for them is going to be what they do on the football field. We've talked about Bryce Underwood and the appeal that he's brought to the program. I think he's being used less as a recruiting tool now as they're getting closer to the season and kind of let him just focus on the season. But if they go out there and the offense looks more explosive, we've Darbo here trying to troll with his Hiter receiver comments, but him and I have talked a lot about like it's not even that the receivers need to be lights out. You just need to show Bryce Underwood hitting the receivers, right? If anything, if the receivers aren't amazing, some of these guys might be thinking, cool, they're throwing the ball and I could start right away. Right? So they just got to show what they've been talking, right? They've got a good selling pitch, but now they got to show it on the field. And I think that's going to help with some closes as well. So let's finish up with the news that I think kind of made everybody smile, which was Charles Woodson Jr. getting his offer. Look, this is a legit prospect, right? He's got legit offers. This isn't a guy just getting offered because he's Charles Woodson Jr. So I think that is fun. And obviously his dad was involved, and with him getting the offer, he was there. That had to be a really cool moment for them. But this is a football player, and he's one that Michigan's interested in. A lot of schools are interested in. Tell me a little bit about, you spoke with his coach, just kind of his looking like nickel, probably, I'm guessing, but just some things he said about Woodson Jr.'s potential at the next level.
Yeah, I think he has potential as a nickel or as a strong safety, I think. Because I mean, you watch his film and he gets into the box and he makes an impact. And then on this very next play in his highlights, he was down the field in coverage against like a far bulkier wide receiver and making plays on the ball. So I think Nepo Baby is a bit of a stretch. Someone just said it in the chat. But he's a legit prospect. I think I was seriously impressed by his film. I mean, he's athletic. He's long. I think he's got frame to fill in, which I think is
Yeah,
always good to see. I think that's what you want to see from 2027 prospects and like the younger prospects. I think when you see the guys that are like filled in and have reached their potential early, I don't think that's what
great point.
particularly what Michigan coaches want.
Yeah, you're good,
What
Juju. You're good.
yeah, I was just kidding. What Michigan coaches in particular don't want to see. I think they want to see that room for improvement and that room for growth. That's not to say that he's not a good player currently. I mean, as I said, I think he's showed really good traits in the field. And I think but there's a lot of room to grow. And I think that he's a legit, as you say, he's a legit prospect. Like he's not a nepo baby. There's something definitely there, and I think it was worth an offer. I think he's the kind of guy that they would have offered no matter what his last name was.
Yeah, and I think that's why Michigan probably waited too, right?
Yeah.
You know, they could have offered him when he was 8 years old, and I don't think anybody would have been shocked. But Marcus Ray's son, also John brings up, he had a really good appearance at a Michigan camp recently. I bet he's going to get an offer soon. And if I don't feel old enough already, a secondary featuring the sons of Charles Woodson and Marcus Ray will do it to me. Good God. That's where we're at, man. But anyway, Aidan, awesome as always. Thank you for accommodating us with your time change. Or not time change, but time difference. And thank you all who were watching live. Part of the conversation again. Apologize for starting late today, but if you are watching live or if you want to watch live, make sure you're going to our YouTube channel, Maize Blue Review, liking, subscribing, notification bell, so you do know when we go live. And then, of course, continue to follow Aidan's intel and breakdowns and tons of information, as well as Seth bringing in a lot of recruiting information for us over at michigan.rivals.com. Otherwise, we should have a Hail to the podcast this weekend, and then we'll be back next week as well with another episode of Who's Got Next.